Well, in 1920, they canceled an America's Cup boat for 20 knots of wind, an America's Cup racing series. And the fishermen up in Halifax thought how silly this is. We never would have even gone out if it wasn't blowing 20. And so they challenged the American fishermen to an international fishermen's schooner race. And we won the first race, and then they built the Blue Nose, and we built a boat called the Puritan, and it only sailed 3 trips and was wrecked on Sable Island in the fog. Well, that boat, the Puritan, was tied up exactly where the Lannon is. And I've had people from Palermo, Italy, who sailed on it come here. I've had all these things come into my life telling me about this Puritan. And a few years ago, I went to Harold Burnham, and I said, Harold, I think somebody's telling me to build this boat. And he said, well, come look at this. And I went into his house, and here's his yearbook with all of his accomplishments. Harold is the fellow that built this boat. And his life's ambition is to build a Puritan. So I said, well, that's that. Let's just do it. So we've thought about a lot of things, and really it needs to be an educational program, but it needs to be more than just an educational program. And so we've decided to put an electric motor in this boat instead of a diesel. And when the boat is sailing, the electric motor will spin and generate electricity. And we've been talking with people from MIT and from other industries in the greater Boston area that are developing technologies for storing and collecting electricity. So we'll be able to have emerging technologies for storing and collecting electricity, and we'll have a biodiesel as a backup in case we needed it. And this new vessel can be green platform for green energy. Will open their imagination for the possibilities of their future. It will get them thinking entrepreneurially and become stewards for the oceans, which are 70% of the planet. And then we'll just kick those kids on their way and get another group of kids on there. What I hope is that some company will see the value of being associated with this kind of a project and support it.
First of all, some very basic questions. One, what's the length of the Puritan?
The length of it on deck is about 123 feet, roughly.
Number two, what kind of fishing was the Puritan engaged in when it was active as a fishing vessel?
They were doing groundfish, cod and haddock and halibut, and they were dory trawling. Mm-hmm. And the rules for engagement in these international fishermen's races were that a vessel had to fish on the banks for a year before it could qualify to be in these fishermen's races, rather than just building a supersonic racing boat. The Puritan was designed by Starling Burgess, and he also went on to design 3 winning America's Cup boats after this. So these designers were taking the qualities, the seaworthy qualities of fishing boats, and melding them with the speed of the racing, America's Cup racing boats. And they were coming up with racing fishermen.
Let's touch for just a minute on some of the most famous of those races. They were actually international races. And what was the competition like, and who was the competition?
I would say that the competition was as fierce as it is today with the America's Cup races. These races were being skipped by men who were going out to sea for a living. They weren't yachting people who had a job in New York City in a skyscraper all week and came to the yacht club on weekends to sail boats. These guys were seasoned veterans of the oceans, and they could carry sail. No one ever died in any of these races, and they would take chances fishing that they might not take in a race, but they really knew how to sail boats, and that's what they did their whole life. So
Tell us a little bit about, Captain, the international nature of these races. The principal competitors for the Puritan would have been vessels that were originating in Canada and sailing from Canada, correct?
Right, and specifically it was the Bluenose. We went up there and beat them in the first race with a boat. Its name was Ellis, I believe, and they that year had this guy Will Rui design them the Bluenose, and they never had to design another one because the Bluenose, according to them, was never beaten. Sir Thomas Lipton put up a cup, and it was in maybe 1930 or 32, but the Gertrude L. Tebold beat the Bluenose 2 out of 3 in that series. The Fisherman's series were mostly the best out of 5, and the Bluenose was never beaten in the international races. So that's what they say, that the Bluenose was never beaten in an international Fisherman's series. But in individual races,
One of the great opportunities here is to actually recreate some of that magic that occurred with regard to these international races, and we know that the Bluenose has been reproduced as the Bluenose II, and I know that you've had conversations with the folks that operate the Bluenose II.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that program works and what's happening with that particular vessel?
Well, the Bluenose II was built by a brewing company to promote their product, and then after a few years it was given to Nova Scotia, and now it's being the director is Wayne Walters, who was the original captain Angus Walters' grandson, and it's being skippered by a fellow named Phil Watson, who is in his early 40s now. He has been on the vessel for 23 consecutive years and has been the skipper of it for the last 7 years. And so he is really a competent, experienced captain on that vessel, and any vessel really. So Bruce, Wayne and Phil have made the case for how important it is to maintain this vessel, and they've just secured $14 million Canadian, which isn't quite as much as American, but it's pretty close right now. And they have now hired a project supervisor, and they are weighing out where they want to build it and who they want to have build it. But the money has been allocated, and they're going to restore the Bluenose II, and it's going to be restored back to I believe not. It was built sort of like a yacht with the Bluenose hull, and so that's what they're doing now.
So the plan is to reconstruct or rebuild the Bluenose II, or to
Right.
build an additional?
No,
Bluenose?
they're gonna rebuild the Bluenose II.
Well, I'm sure that people who are watching are wondering, what is the potential to be able to link with that effort so that these two historic vessels might be able to have the chance to sail together? Maybe not racing, and there are plenty who would like to see that. But what's the potential, Tom, in your opinion, for these two vessels to be able to work together to tell the great story of dory fishing in New England and in the maritime provinces?
Well, I just took my 86-year-old mom up to see her 86-year-old cousin, first cousin, in Halifax, and we went down to Lunenburg and had lunch with the captain last week, and the possibility is more than a possibility. They really like the idea of us sailing in company.
In a couple of minutes, can you tell us what it will take to move us from the point that we're at now of really thinking hard about this project and being able to move forward and construct the Puritan?
Well, what it's going to take is money. Somebody that can see the value in being associated with a project like this, so that their company will get the name recognition that kind of money can buy. Now, companies do it by advertising on television. They do it by supporting Volvo around the world races. They do it, you know, in a lot of different ways. And so if it's well maintained, it can last for a long time. It can be out there promoting goodwill and promoting the need for a green planet, which we are all pretty well accepted the fact that, you know, we need to get off fossil fuels. Realistically, it isn't going to happen overnight, but this venue could be a great way of getting that dialogue started in whatever community we sail into. So we're saying that this is a $20 million project. Whatever's left over from building will go into a sustainment fund. All the boats out there that I know of that are doing educational work are all scrambling for money from the minute they start until they get exhausted and everybody quits. So the only way that I'm interested in doing this project is to have it properly capitalized from the beginning, which you would do in any business. It will be set up as a nonprofit. That's the nonprofit is called Global Initiatives that we have set up for this, and so we want to get involved in promoting products that are green and bringing them around the globe. But mostly they'll be in the Canadian Maritimes and the United States, but it will go to other places.
I just happened to be looking around the forecastle, and I noticed that you may even have an early start on building the Puritan, because I noticed there was a piece of it that was here somewhere just a minute ago.
This
right here.
Yeah.
Tell us, is this the life ring for the Puritan?
This little life ring, there were two of them made. The builder at the James Yard in Essex in 1922 presented Captain Jeff Thomas with two of these, and one of them hung in the main cabin, the main salon of the Puritan, and the other one hung from their family mantle all these years, this one. And the grandson of Captain Jeff Thomas, who is Jeff Thomas, had heard this idea to build the Puritan, and he said that he had something he wanted to give me to keep me excited about the project. And so he gave me this and said that as long as I was working to build this boat, I could keep it. But as soon as I gave up on the idea, I had to give it back. Well, so there's no way I'm giving up on the idea.
Well, let's do what we can to make sure the project keeps moving forward and that you never have to let go of that life ring. We really appreciate you spending some time with us, learning a lot about a very exciting project that's represented by the reconstruction of an historic fishing vessel that really has a lot to tell, not only about the past, but about where we're going in terms of our energy environment, our climate, and lots of other valuable lessons, not only for school children, but for all of us. We hope that you're going to want to get involved in this project, and we hope that you'll take advantage of this rare opportunity to reach into the past and treasure it, and reach forward and impact the future. Please give Tom a call, contact us, let's talk about a wonderful future for a very famous vessel that still has a lot to offer for years to come. Thanks for tuning in.